All right, so this is Docendo number 47. Let's look at a sentence here. The candidate refused to say what she would do if faced with a hypothetical military crisis. Therefore, her poll numbers plummeted. So looking at this, first of all, should we capitalize candidate? Well, I don't think so, right? It's not a specific title. There's no name attached to it. It's just a general noun. The candidate refused, so it should not be capitalized. Let's see, hypothetical military crisis. Therefore, here we have one of these words again that is called a conjunctive adverb, and it's connecting two independent clauses here because her poll numbers plummeted. That is being an independent clause. And remember, when we do that, we have to use a semicolon and a comma. Poll numbers. We're talking about a different type of poll here. That would be wrong spelling. This would be a homophone, P-O-L-L. Poll numbers plummeted. I don't think we need a comma here, do we? Her poll numbers plummeted. So I think it looks good now, doesn't it? All right, let's look at the words here. Hypothetical, involving an assumption made for the sake of an argument. We have the ability to think hypothetically using our imaginations. And hypocritical is behaving in a way that suggests one has higher standards or more noble beliefs than is the case. So hypothetical, hypocritical, two good adjectives to know. And here's our changes. We got rid of the capitalization here. We correctly connected using the conjunctive adverb, therefore. We changed the spelling of poll to the correct spelling. Should put that in red. And we also got rid of a comma too. All right, some words from the past. Do you remember an adjective that means fond of being with other people? And how about one that means outstandingly bad or shocking? So both of these have to do with groups, a word that has to do with groups. And in this first case, we're talking about fond of being with other people. That is gregarious. And outstandingly bad is egregious, as in it stands out as being very clear, stands out from the group, so to speak. Okay, so I want to talk about lesson 5 here for syntax. Another phrase that is commonly used, not quite as commonly used as certainly the prepositional phrase, but prepositional phrase. It's called a participial phrase. When you think of a participial phrase, think of a phrase that kind of works like an adjective. It starts with a verb. Now, that verb is oftentimes present tense, ing, but it can also be past tense. So you have present participles and past participles. But the idea is this phrase describes a noun, but it uses a verb. So it's kind of like an adjective in that sense. Notice this phrase here, running with speed and skill. That's certainly not a clause. There's no subject there. But notice it comes right before Miguel. So it's modifying the noun like an adjective would, except it's a complete phrase that starts with a verb. And that's basically what participial phrase is. And it's a nice phrase to know because what it does is it adds a nice way of adding some action. So in addition to Miguel move the soccer ball, we also have the running with speed and skill. So you see how you can create more of an image there. So rhetorically, participial phrases are great to create action, movement, vivid imagery. But it's also good just to know, okay, what do we call these things? They're called participial phrases. And again, they're flexible. You can put them in different places. So we could say Miguel, comma, running with speed and skill, move the soccer ball down the field in less than a minute. Again, as long as it modifies the noun and it's clear. Now, that's the problem. You might have heard of dangling participles, and that's where you have a participle that isn't quite close enough to the subject, and so it creates the odd image. We'll look at that later. So imagine we had these 3 sentences, which are kind of choppy. Mary was smiling. Mary was humming a happy tune. Mary completed her geometry homework. Obviously, we'd say, okay, that sounds kind of like a first grade kind of sentence, very repetitive. So we could combine these clauses and make one sentence by basically transforming these ing verbs into phrases. So here's the way we might do it. Mary, smiling and humming a happy tune, completed her geometry homework. Notice that comes after the noun. It's not a positive phrase because it starts with a verb, right? Positives don't start with a verb. They start with an article and a noun. But this tells us more about Mary. Now, notice that phrase, which is a participial phrase, we could put it at the end too. Mary completed her geometry homework, smiling and humming a happy tune. I probably wouldn't put it there because you don't want to confuse the homework with Mary. It kind of sounds like the homework is smiling and humming a happy tune. And that's what we talk about with dangling participles. So I would watch out for this version. I'd probably put this in red and say probably not the best version. This version, though, we could open up with the participial phrase, smiling and humming a happy tune. Mary completed her geometry homework. And notice you have a nice little bit of parallelism here because it's more than just one verb, it's two. She's smiling and humming a happy tune. Mary completed her geometry homework. It's very clear in this case that Mary is doing the smiling and the humming, right? So participial phrases, watch for those. Good writers use them, especially obviously when you're describing action, but they can also be used for abstract things. All right, so that is Docendo number 47. See you next time.